Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of What Happened. Today we're going to talk about someone whose voice was so powerful, so unique, and so deeply moving that it still gives you chills more than a decade after she left us. We're exploring the life and tragic story of Amy Winehouse, a woman whose incredible talent was matched only by her profound struggles with addiction and the pressures of fame. This isn't a story about scandal or drama. This is about a genuine artist who poured her heart and soul into her music, who touched millions of lives with her honesty and vulnerability, and who sadly couldn't find her way through the darkness that consumed her final years. Amy's story is both heartbreaking and inspiring, and I think it's important we tell it with the respect and compassion she deserves. So let's dive into the life of Amy Winehouse, from her early days as a jazz-loving kid in North London to becoming one of the most celebrated and troubled artists of her generation. It's a story about raw talent, genuine emotion, and the very real struggles that so many people face behind closed doors. Let me start by painting a picture of who Amy was before the world knew her name, because understanding her roots helps us understand the woman she became. Amy Jade Winehouse was born on September 14, 1983, in Southgate, North London, to Jewish parents who absolutely loved music. Her family was steeped in jazz tradition. Her father Mitchell was an amateur singer and taxi driver. Her mother Janice was a pharmacist, and music was just woven into the fabric of their household. Amy grew up listening to everything from Frank Sinatra and Ella Fitzgerald to Salt and Peppa and the Ronettes. This incredible mix of influences would later become the signature sound that made her so special. Even as a child, Amy was fiercely independent and determined to do things her own way. When her parents' marriage ended, she channeled a lot of her emotions into music. She started getting tattoos, experimenting with marijuana, and honestly, she wasn't the easiest teenager to handle. But through it all, she had this singular vision. She wanted to be a musician, and she was going to pour her entire soul into making that happen. By 16, she was already catching people's attention. A classmate shared her demo tape with his manager, and that's when the music industry started to take notice. Amy had this incredible ability to blend jazz sophistication with raw, confessional lyrics that felt like she was speaking directly to your heart. Island Records signed her, and she was on her way. In 2003, at just 20 years old, Amy released her debut album, Frank. And let me tell you, this wasn't your typical debut album. It was mature, it was sophisticated, and it showcased a vocal range and songwriting ability that people twice her age would envy. The album went triple platinum and earned her several award nominations, including an Ivor Novello Award for Best Contemporary Song. But even this early in her career, there were signs of the struggles that would later define her public image. Amy had always been drawn to the edgier side of life, and with her newfound success came access to a world that wasn't always healthy for someone with her particular vulnerabilities. She moved to Camden, which was this vibrant neighborhood known for its punk music scene and, unfortunately, its party culture. Amy became a regular at local pubs where she'd drink what locals called Rick Stacy. And looking back, this was probably when her relationship with alcohol really began to take hold. But the real turning point in Amy's life came when she met Blake Fielder Civil in 2005. Their relationship was intense, passionate, and unfortunately, incredibly destructive. Blake was a video production assistant who was already deep into the world of hard drugs, and many people believe he introduced Amy to substances that she simply wasn't equipped to handle. Their relationship was the classic on-again, off-again romance that consumed both of them completely. When Blake temporarily left Amy to pursue an ex-girlfriend, it devastated her. But out of that heartbreak came something extraordinary, her masterpiece album, Back to Black. Working with producers Mark Ronson and Salam Remy, Amy channeled all of her pain, love, guilt, and trauma into an album that was unlike anything the music world had heard in years. The sound was retro, influenced by those 60s girl groups she'd grown up loving, but the lyrics were brutally honest and contemporary. Mark Ronson later recalled how serious Amy was about her words. When she first sang the chorus to the title track, she delivered those heartbreaking lines about dying 100 times after saying goodbye. You could feel the raw emotion in every note, every word. This wasn't just pop music. This was somebody bearing their soul for the world to hear. Back to Black was released in October 2006, and it changed everything. The album was a massive commercial success, eventually selling 20 million copies worldwide and becoming the UK's second best-selling album of the 21st century. But more than that, it established Amy as a true artist, someone who wasn't just performing songs, but creating genuine art from her life experiences. The album spawned several hit singles, but none more iconic than Rehab. Now, this song is particularly significant because it was literally about Amy's real-life struggles with addiction and her resistance to getting help. The lyrics were catchy and accessible, but they were also a cry for help disguised as a pop song. It's heartbreaking when you really listen to what she was trying to tell us. At the 2008 Grammy Awards, Amy won 5 awards, tying her for the second most awarded female artist in a single ceremony. She won Record of the Year, Song of the Year, Best Pop Vocal Album, Best New Artist, and Best Female Pop Vocal Performance. It should have been the happiest night of her career. But Amy couldn't even attend the ceremony in person because she'd been denied a U.S. visa due to her drug-related legal issues. Instead, she performed via satellite from London, and in her acceptance speech, she thanked My Blake Incarcerated, referring to her husband Blake Fielder Civil, who was in jail following a bar fight. That moment really encapsulates the tragedy of Amy's story. Here she was, achieving the highest recognition in music, and she couldn't fully enjoy it because her personal life was in complete chaos. Amy and Blake had gotten married in May 2007, but their relationship continued to be incredibly turbulent. Both of them were struggling with serious substance abuse issues, and rather than helping each other get clean, they seemed to enable each other's destructive behavior. The media attention during this period was relentless and often cruel. Paparazzi followed Amy everywhere, photographing her at her worst moments and splashing those images across tabloid covers. The focus became less about her incredible music and more about her erratic behavior, dramatic weight loss, and public struggles. Amy was dealing with multiple serious issues simultaneously. She was battling alcohol addiction, had been introduced to hard drugs including heroin and crack cocaine, and was also struggling with bulimia and other eating disorders. She was dealing with depression and anxiety, and the constant media attention was making everything worse. Her family later said they believed the death of her grandmother in mid-2006 was a major trigger for her descent into addiction. Her grandmother had been a stabilizing influence in her life, and losing her during an already vulnerable time sent Amy spiraling. The years 2007 and 2008 were particularly dark. Amy was hospitalized multiple times, once for what was reported as an overdose involving heroin, ecstasy, cocaine, ketamine, and alcohol. She canceled numerous shows, citing exhaustion and ill health. When she did perform, she was often visibly intoxicated, leading to booing from disappointed audiences. There's footage from this period that's genuinely hard to watch. You can see this incredibly talented woman who's clearly in tremendous pain, struggling to get through performances while battling demons that were bigger than she was. The entertainment industry has a way of enabling destructive behavior when someone is making money, and unfortunately, that's exactly what happened with Amy. Despite multiple attempts at rehabilitation, Amy couldn't seem to break free from the cycle of addiction. She and Blake divorced in 2009, but the damage to her health and career had already been done. She was essentially unable to tour or record consistently, and the 5-year gap between Back to Black and her death meant that fans never got to see what other incredible music she might have created. Amy's final public performance was in Belgrade, Serbia, in June 2011. Video from that show is heartbreaking. She was clearly in no condition to perform, stumbling through songs and seeming confused and disoriented. The audience was supportive, but it was obvious that Amy needed help, not a stage. On July 23, 2011, Amy was found dead in her Camden apartment at the age of 27. The cause of death was alcohol poisoning. Her blood alcohol level was more than 5 times the legal driving limit. She had essentially drunk herself to death. Her death sent shockwaves through the music world and devastated fans globally. Here was someone with such incredible talent, such a unique voice and perspective, and she was gone far too soon. Amy joined what's unfortunately known as the 27 Club, a group of musicians who died at that age, including Kurt Cobain, Janis Joplin, and Jim Morrison. But Amy's story didn't end with her death. Her family established the Amy Winehouse Foundation to help vulnerable young people avoid the pitfalls of drug and alcohol misuse. They've worked tirelessly to ensure that Amy's legacy is about more than just her struggles. It's about the incredible music she created and the lives that can be saved through education and support. The foundation runs programs in schools across the UK, providing education about drugs, alcohol, and emotional issues. Amy's brother Alex gave up his career as a music journalist to work full-time for the foundation, making sure that his sister's story helps prevent other young people from going down the same destructive path. In 2015, a documentary called Amy, directed by Asif Kapadia, was released. The film won the Academy Award for Best Documentary and provided an intimate look at Amy's life, her struggles, and her incredible talent. While the documentary was sometimes difficult to watch, it helped people understand Amy as a complete person, rather than just the tabloid caricature she'd become. More recently, in 2024, a biographical film called Back to Black was released, starring Marissa Abila as Amy. While reviews were mixed, the film represented another attempt to understand and honor Amy's life and legacy. What strikes me most about Amy's story is how it highlights the complex relationship between mental health, addiction, and creative genius. Amy's music was so powerful, precisely because it came from a place of deep emotional truth. She wasn't hiding her pain or pretending everything was fine. She was transforming her struggles into art that resonated with millions of people. But that same emotional vulnerability that made her such an incredible artist also made her susceptible to the destructive influences around her. The music industry can be a brutal place, especially for someone dealing with mental health issues and addiction. There were so many people around Amy who should have prioritized her well-being over her ability to generate revenue. Amy's influence on music continues to be felt today. Artists like Adele, Duffy, and countless others have cited her as a major influence. Her fusion of classic soul and jazz with contemporary themes showed that there was still room for authenticity and emotional honesty in popular music. Her fashion sense, that iconic beehive hairstyle, the winged eyeliner, the vintage-inspired look, became as influential as her music. But more than any of that, it's her voice and her songwriting that people remember. When you listen to Back to Black today, it still sounds fresh, still sounds relevant, still moves you in ways that very few albums can. Amy's story is ultimately about the price of fame and the importance of mental health support. She was someone with extraordinary talent who never received the help she needed to deal with her personal demons. The constant media scrutiny, the people who enabled her destructive behavior, and the lack of effective intervention all contributed to her tragic end. But it's also a story about the power of music to connect us, to help us understand difficult emotions, and to provide comfort during our own dark times. Amy's music continues to help people who are struggling with heartbreak, addiction, and mental health issues feel less alone. The Amy Winehouse Foundation continues to do incredible work, and Amy's parents have both written memoirs about their daughter, donating the proceeds to the foundation. They've turned their grief into action, working to prevent other families from experiencing the loss they've endured. Looking back at Amy's career, what's clear is that she was a once-in-a-generation talent who left us far too soon. She created music that will last forever, touched countless lives, and showed us what it means to be completely honest in your art, even when that honesty comes from a place of pain. Her story reminds us to be compassionate toward people who are struggling, to look beyond the tabloid headlines and see the human being underneath, and to value authenticity and emotional truth in a world that often prioritizes image over substance. That's what happened to Amy Winehouse, a brilliant artist whose light burned too bright and too fast, but whose music continues to illuminate the lives of people around the world. She may be gone, but her voice, her words, and her incredible heart live on in every note she sang. Thanks for watching this episode, guys. Amy's story is one that I think about often, especially in our current social media age where young artists face even more scrutiny and pressure than Amy did. Her music got me through some difficult times in my own life, and I know many of you probably feel the same way. What strikes me most about Amy is how genuine she was. In an industry that often rewards artifice and manufactured emotion, she gave us something real. Her pain was real, her love was real, her art was real. And that's probably why her music still resonates so powerfully today. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction or mental health issues, please know that help is available. The Amy Winehouse Foundation and many other organizations provide resources and support for people who need it. Amy's story doesn't have to be repeated. Her legacy should be about both her incredible talent and the importance of taking care of each other. In a world that can be harsh and judgmental, we can choose to be kind, supportive, and understanding toward people who are struggling. Don't forget to hit that like button if this video moved you, and subscribe for more respectful deep dives into the stories of artists who've shaped our world. I'll catch you in the next episode, and remember, everyone is fighting battles we know nothing about. So let's choose empathy and compassion whenever we can. Amy would have wanted that.